When it moves, the Army goes by some sort of vehicle. Its vast fleet, though, is getting old and worn out. So it's starting to spend big on refurbishing and developing the next generation of combat vehicles. Here with some numbers on this growing market, Frost & Sullivan Senior Aerospace and Defense Analyst, John Hernandez. Mr. Hernandez, good to have you on.
Thank you. It's good to be on, Tom.
So give us a sense of the size of the vehicle market in the Army, and how do you define vehicles, because they do have some regular automobiles also.
Well, Tom, the size of the market includes an array of various vehicles, which include not only combat vehicles, but tactical support vehicles, weapon carriers, personnel carriers, even ambulances. So, according to the DoD budget, which I've looked at from 2018 to 2024, the cumulative procurement is going to run an estimated $47.97 billion. Now, that's just procurement. Now, research and development is another $8.3 billion. That does not include also the contracts that were awarded during 2018. The numbers I mentioned earlier are programmed money, and some of that comes from the contracts that were doled out in 2018 that were amounted to about $9.4 billion. And we just got the numbers for 2019, which were up to $11.33 billion.
And this includes both the refurbishment of existing vehicles and the acquisition of new ones?
That is correct. That is correct.
And when it comes to the acquisition of the new ones, are they simply buying the same models that have been worn out or destroyed, or are they looking at something as a new generation of vehicles, and what are some of those possibilities?
Absolutely. They are looking at some new generation vehicles, but also until those newer vehicles come online, you'll see that much of the spending will be on modifications and technology upgrades, specifically to, the Abrams tank, the Paladin self-propelled howitzer, some of the Hummers already. The Humvee vehicles are being replaced by the new Joint Light Tactical Vehicle, which is produced by Oshkosh Defense.
So this new light tactical vehicle is replacing the Hummers, but that light tactical vehicle is something that is developed already. Do you see anything beyond
That's
the
correct.
Horizon for other areas of vehicles that are under development that might be something brand new?
They are doing research now on replacing the Abrams tank. Some of that bidding went out already, and I think they're at the prototype portion of accepting which particular vehicle will replace the Abrams. But there are others. There are the self-propelled robotic vehicles that are also being developed, some of that are manned and that are not manned. There's technologies that are being added on to some of the older vehicles, such as new weaponry in the directed energy field, lasers, electromagnetic systems that can protect these vehicles against new evolving threats such as drones, and they're trying also to enhance some of the armor on some of the older vehicles because, again, the Army needs to utilize as much as they can until these new generation technologies come online with new vehicles. It's much more cost effective to enhance some of the older systems while the new systems come online. That's a great expense. One of the things that they need, though, are new vehicles that are lighter and faster, but there's a consequence to that. When the vehicles are lighter, there's less armor, and they're much more susceptible to threats. Now, that's where the automation comes in. Some of the vehicles that they're thinking about putting out are, again, as I said, optionally manned vehicles.
We're speaking with John Hernandez, Senior Industry Analyst for Aerospace and Defense at Frost & Sullivan. Who are the players in this? In your report, you mention BAE Systems, General Dynamics, and Oshkosh Defense.
Those are the big three.
Does this mean that other vehicle manufacturers are locked out, or do they have opportunities also?
Oh, no, absolutely not. These companies are legacy companies that have their fingers really inside the acquisition process, simply because of the Abrams, the Stryker systems, the HEMET systems, which has been a mainstay of the Army. So, but they need to partner with other companies that will be able to integrate new weapon systems, new sensors, new communication systems, because those are the things that are being updated. Some of the current systems, don't have the situational awareness that is needed, and those upgrades and those modifications are done by companies that can prove they can integrate with the legacy systems.
It sounds like each vehicle has a pretty long supply chain, because if you go to some of the trade shows, there are just engine manufacturers, because usually the primes
Absolutely.
that make the frames don't also make the engines and tires and so forth.
That's absolutely true. There are some other companies. Allison Transmissions is one of them. Mack also is another company that does defense work. Just an array of other Axle Tech, which also provides some of the large axles for the larger vehicles. Yes, the supply chain is long, and it can vary on how things evolve, on what the requirements are. So, as these legacy combat platforms are replaced, opportunities are going to exist to extend the value by converting them even into unmanned systems. Some of these unmanned systems that can be used for research and development. They can also be used for foreign trade to governments that can't afford the newer technology vehicles.
What about life cycle maintenance of vehicles? Is that something the Army does itself, or are there contractors on that long tail of keeping these things running for the lifetime that they do have service?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. GD does a lot of the updates and maintenance to their particular vehicles on certain contracts. And some of the contracts are teaching the military how to maintain these systems. In Oshkosh Defense, I've seen a lot of support contracts for wheels and maintenance. So when these contracts are awarded, usually there is a maintenance package associated with it and some long-term agreements.
John Hernandez is Senior Industry Analyst for Aerospace and Defense at Frost & Sullivan. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Tom, for having me.
We'll post this interview along with a link to more information at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Subscribe to the Federal Drive at Apple Podcasts or Podcast One.